Welcome to Channel 17, the Town of Colonie Government Channel.
Welcome to Parenting in the 21st Century. I'm Zena Shefchik. Today we're going to talk about how families can be prepared for emergencies with two people from the local Red Cross, Siobhan Kent, who's a communications manager, and Deneen Palmateer, who is a volunteer preparedness instructor. Thank you very much for being with us today, Deneen and Siobhan.
Thanks for having us.
We're here today to talk about a program you have called Be Red Cross Ready. Would you tell us about that program?
Sure. Be Red Cross Ready is a program that we've run at the local Red Cross level and at the national level for several years now. We started it because we realized that the Red Cross does disaster response, and we're always there for victims of disasters, whether they're small house fires or major national disasters. But we realized that the impact of those disasters could be reduced because there are simple steps that people can take in advance to make sure that they're ready when the disasters do strike. And so we started this program. It's a free program that we offer all over the community. Wherever people will let us come and present, we will teach them about it. And hopefully we're giving people very easy skills that they can take into their lives and make themselves just a little bit more ready for disasters.
What kind of emergencies and disasters does your program mean to address?
Well, I think the program means to address any kind of an emergency, whether it is a large disaster on a scale of, the earthquakes or flooding. However, it's also meant for small disasters, a home fire, an ice storm. Certainly, we have those right here in the capital region, or the flooding that we have in the stockade sections
every year.
So I think that they want us to be prepared no matter what the disaster is. And the disaster could be as small as just a family emergency that takes you out of town. How quickly can you get there? How do you, what do you take? What do you have ready? Do you have a plan to make sure your pet's taken care of? I mean, those types of things. So. Mm-hmm.
Does the Red Cross feel that, well, obviously you wouldn't be doing these programs. It's kind of a silly question that came to my mind is about, do you think most people are prepared? Obviously you must think there's enough people who aren't prepared and can take simple steps to have designed this program.
Yeah, we actually did a poll with Siena College a couple of years ago, and we found that only about a third of the people that we polled, and it was a very large-scale poll, but only about a third of those people had done anything at all to prepare for emergencies. And we realized there's a very serious need for this program in this community. Yeah. So that's why we're doing it.
Great. So tell us about this. I think there's three main steps that you use to teach this, how to be ready for a family.
I think the three main steps are, make a kit.
It's like an emergency
kit. And
it's
an emergency kit.
Supplies.
Make a kit, make a plan, and be informed about what you can do in the emergency itself. So first steps, it can go either way. Make the plan first or make the kit first, but whatever you're deciding that the emergency could be. So do you want me to continue as to what the kit could contain?
Why don't we do that? So these are supplies that a family should have ready in a designated spot at all times, right?
At all times. I know some people say they keep it in their home. I actually keep mine in my car.
Okay.
Usually you can get to your car if it's parked in your garage or in your driveway. But sometimes a disaster may hit while you're elsewhere.
You could have two.
You could have two. You could have one. Yes. But the kit should contain several vital things. First of all, it should contain a radio, a battery-operated one, and a set of batteries that you might want to check every now and then and replace. Should contain a flashlight, several things that we have out here, and a first aid kit.
The prepared ones are enough.
They are enough. And those kinds of disasters are if you're at your son's hockey game and something happens. I mean, there are certain times that there's not always someone there, or it's not really a soccer game that's held by a soccer team, but your kid's out playing in a park. So you want to have a first aid kit
And
always handy.
there you go. That's a good reason to have it in a car.
Right.
Right.
Always available for you. A flashlight, one never knows when the power is going to go out or your car is going to stall or it's just going to break down. And if you're on the road, a flashlight, even if you stay in your car with the flashers on or something, a flashlight is always good. And they have these great little kits at Red Cross that have ponchos and blankets and emergency water and masks and a whistle, things that everyone could do, and they sell these right at the Red Cross. So
Online too, I assume.
online, so
Make
I
a
always
phone call, probably.
grab one of those.
That's a good idea.
But at the same time, I think you need to be prepared to just leave your home. So I think an extra set of clothing, a pair of sneakers. And this isn't for a big disaster, but a small one. Your car breaks down and you're a woman like me and I'm in heels and a skirt. And I have to walk somewhere, grab a pair of sneakers and my sweats out of the car, and I'm much safer.
I never would have thought of that. That's clever, I think, to have an extra pair of sneakers in a car.
Right.
Particularly for women.
Yeah.
Or with kids these days, they wear flip-flops, and actually adults too. They wear flip-flops, not made for long walking or over hilly terrain or something. So, good idea.
Yeah. So I think that when we say emergencies, we'd like you to be informed, but also staying in place. You want to make sure you have duct tape and plastic if you have to shelter in place, which means taping up everything. The doorways, the walls, putting yourself into a room. So you want to make sure that those are there. But your car, it's an extra shelter. Plastic is easy and it's quick. Buy a drop cloth at Grossman's for 99 cents, or keep it handy. Keep them in your car.
It doesn't have to be expensive.
It doesn't have to be expensive. A kit can be very inexpensive to create. Make sure the biggest thing is water.
Yes. Because we can't, there's a certain period of time within which you can live without food, but it's even less time that you can live without water. I
Very
don't
true.
know what the exact times are, but I do remember that. Water, okay.
Water. And you should always keep a couple of bottles of water in your car. You never know when you're going to need clean water.
Right. Most mothers know that.
Yeah.
Not only to have water, but to have food there at all times.
Absolutely.
What's in this white packet right there?
This is actually, it's high energy food that we have in some of the preparedness kits, some of the larger preparedness kits that we sell at the Red Cross. And it's food, it has a lot of calories and a lot of protein. You can just break off little pieces of it and eat it. I haven't tried it myself. It's not the most appetizing, I've been told, but it will definitely serve you in an emergency situation. It'll keep your energy up and help you keep going.
One thing that I always wanted to know about, and this goes back to when they were predicting disaster when the year 2000 came about, and I actually put water away in my house, and there were no dates on the water as to how long it was actually drinkable. And do these bottles have dates on them? Do the big jugs have dates on them?
A lot of them do now. Actually, this bottle I was checking before I came over here, and it doesn't expire until next year, but it is in very, very faint letters right here, the expiration date. It's very hard to see. And what you can do is, when you're building your preparedness kit, you want to check it every 6 months and make sure that the batteries are still good, that the power bars that you have in there are still good. And you can, if it's not easy to see what the expiration date on your water is, just write it on there with a marker. I put this in here in November, so you know that the next spring you want to take it out and replace it.
Good point. Make your own dates on it. Good idea. I do that with the food that I put in the freezer, so it certainly makes sense to do it.
You're already in the habit.
On the food, with the food that you're putting aside in the kit. I think that there were some, when I went online to the Red Cross's site, which is really useful, that all of this is listed on your website. So I think that's fantastic too. There's a discussion about how much water and how much food to put aside. And can you talk about that?
Sure. What we recommend is enough food for yourself for at least 3 days, and enough water. So you want to keep at least 1 gallon of water per person per day. So you just want to think about the number of people in your family or in your household. That doesn't just have to be people that you're related to. It can be maybe a roommate or somebody who's staying with you. And also pets. You want to make sure that you take care of your pets too, because if you have to leave your house, they do too. So you want to make sure that you have enough canned food for them and that you have enough water for them as well.
Right. That's probably something people don't think about very often, is with their dogs and their cats and how to take care of them in an emergency. They talk about personal documents to make sure you have with you as well. Could you just list some of those kinds of things?
Well, I think you should always have, if you have to leave your home, you want a copy of your homeowner's insurance policy.
There you go. I see. I wouldn't have thought of that.
You would like to have a copy of your driver's license, and most importantly, your medical needs. Many of us have a medical folder with our prescriptions, etc. You definitely would want to make sure that you had that. I tell every course that they have these little jump drives that we can pick up. They plug into a computer. It doesn't hurt to scan your documents in. Most children probably know how to scan them in and can save them. You can password protect your jump drive. And then all you have is this little key that will fit in anyone's computer.
And you've got
everything. You have a copy of your passport. You can have your birth certificates. You can, to be safe, and as I tell everyone, make a copy of all of your credit cards, flip them over on the back. If one ever gets stolen, you could go to your jump drive. I mean, it's a small disaster, but you could recreate it and contact your credit companies and stop them, and little things, but they're handy. So
and those documents can make a big difference in recreating your life if, say, your whole house was flooded out and your documents were all gone. It could be so much easier if you had it all handy. That's a great idea.
You can take your digital photos quickly through your house with these digital cameras. Takes no time at all. Save it to your jump drive. You have a photo inventory of your home and its belongings.
This sounds like a great task for our kids to get involved, to get our teenagers even, to get them involved. And they would love to, because of the technology. It's true. I mean, that's great. A couple other things. Cash, why? A map of what?
Well, you want to make sure that you have cash because, you might need to buy certain things that maybe you don't have in your preparedness kit, or, maybe you'll just need to buy, some supply at a store. And, if the power's out, like, for instance, the ice storm that we had in 2008 in the winter, it's a terrible, terrible storm, and people needed to buy things like groceries, and they needed to buy gas, and the power wasn't out in a lot of areas. They couldn't go to ATMs.
Couldn't use your credit cards.
Exactly. Couldn't use your credit card, so you need to have some cash. And then for maps, you want to make sure that you have a map of your neighborhood, that you have a map of the surrounding area, just in case you need to leave, and maybe there are trees down or roads are flooded out, so that you're able to get around. Because, if you have a GPS, that's wonderful, but sometimes they're not incredibly accurate, especially when there's a tree down and the GPS
and they might not
know
work,
about it.
right?
Exactly.
Wasn't it during the ice storm that some of the phones and TVs didn't work because they were all part of, am I right, digital or cable or something?
I know a lot of people's TVs and phones didn't work during the ice storm just because, the power was out and we weren't able to broadcast.
Right. There was something unusual, like the landline worked, but the other kinds of phones didn't work, things like that. So you have to be prepared for everything to go, I guess. All right, I will put a plug in for the flashlights and the radios that are hand cranked now.
Absolutely.
Because we have those at my home, and you don't have to worry about the batteries then. And they're a little bit more expensive, but they're definitely worth it because when the power goes out, you don't have to worry about, did I check the batteries?
Exactly. At the Red Cross, we actually sell these nifty little radios that are actually, they're hand crank, and they also run on batteries. But they're radio, flashlight, alarm, and cell phone chargers. They're very, very neat. They're not that expensive, and we sell them online. So, and we also sell flashlight versions of those too that they don't have the cell phone charger part, but they're also radios and flashlights, and they have an alarm in case you're in an emergency situation. They'll make a loud screeching siren so that you can alert people. Yeah, they're very neat little gadgets.
What a great gift for
Mother's Day, Father's Day, graduation, kids going out on their own. All right. Do you think we've covered enough about the kit, or would you like to add anything more before we go on to
I think
planning?
I think the kit is very well covered. There's always something. Whenever I give a presentation, someone always adds something a little extra, and they're absolutely right, which is the jump drives or
can openers.
The can openers, because many of us are just so used to hitting that electric opener, we forget. But I really think that the other thing to make sure your kit has is dog food and a pet leash and those things. And we did not talk about your medications. So if you can keep track every month that you get all your medications, taking a 3-day supply and setting it near your kit, because if you do need, you want to be able to replenish that all the time. You don't want your medications to go bad, but it is important to make sure you have a list of your medications
Right.
in case of an emergency and have a short supply of them.
Right, right. I think with the pets, I know we're having a separate program on just pet safety and pets. The documentation for their shots and everything could be having an extra copy could be helpful. I know in Katrina, the hurricane, that a lot of pets couldn't go into the shelters, and to be able to prove that your animal has all its shots is also a really good preparation. So shall we talk about making a plan? Obviously, the kit is making a plan, but in what other kinds of things in making a plan?
Well, when you make the plan, even to evacuate your home, you have to have a meeting place. The same thing that we do in a fire. Where's the family going to meet if there's an emergency? So that no one runs back into a house. So there's part of a plan. This plan is like in Katrina, or in, when we had 9/11, a lot of people did not have a plan as to who to contact. The phones are down, no one can call, so there should be a centralized person that you have in another state, that all of your family members know to contact this person to let them know you're okay. Because that way, you can call this person, they get one phone call, they get to someplace, who are they calling? They call this one person, and that one person disseminates the information to the rest of your family and those that need to know. It just makes it easier than 20 of us trying to track down a family member, 20 of us being frustrated when that family member gets one call. We all know who it's going to be to.
Yeah, great. And I think also that just to have everyone in the family know this plan, including where the kid is and what to do with it. I mean, that's the other thing. So communication, big part of the plan. And including your pets. That's what I was interested in. Anything else you would like to talk about with planning?
Well, you just want to consider the needs of everybody who lives in your house when you make the plan, and that includes your pets. So you think about, if we had to leave the house, if we had to be away for a couple of days, what does everybody in my family need? So you might have somebody in your household who has special needs, maybe somebody who's physically disabled or somebody who has, special dietary needs, and those are all things that you want to incorporate into your plan. So, just think about the people who live in your house and what each of them would need to go through to be out of the house for several days or to remain in the house for several days if it wasn't safe for you to go out. Those are all things that you want to think about when you're developing your emergency preparedness plan.
It certainly sounds like something that a whole family, could brainstorm about, because certainly a child might think, or a teenager might think of something different, or outside your parent box mode of thinking. Like this talks about here, I have part of what was on your website, practice evacuating your home twice a year. Now, I know that kids are taught in their schools about that, about a meeting place and what to do in a fire, about how staying low and, having a meeting place. But actually, to evacuate your home, that's a good idea for all of us. It's even this presentation you're doing right now, people forget, and it's always useful to have a reminder. And actually, you talked about, I know they talk about changing the batteries in your smoke alarm and carbon monoxide detectors when the time changes in the spring and in the fall, and maybe that should be a good plan. That's the time to test your plan as well.
Absolutely.
We all face that in the United States anyway. I don't know what the rest of the world does. The Red Cross probably knows what the rest of the world does, but I don't know in terms of time changes. But that's a really good. It's a fall cleaning and spring cleaning of your brain, too.
Well, it gives you a chance to go over the plan and the assignments of the plan. If you shelter in place and you assign a project to one of the children to go do this and another child to do this, so that everybody knows exactly what their plan is and what their job is in the emergency.
and people leave the home. I mean, like my children are out on their own now, and so that happens all the time. People grow up and leave, or they're gone for the day, or I mean for a week or something like that. So it's always that's a very good idea to attend to this a couple times a year because of changes that are in your family or in your surrounding area as well. And there's always changes, like this carbon monoxide detector that's been it's been on the news a lot about how it's required now for everyone to have a carbon monoxide detector in their home, and that kind of thing does change. I mean, new rules, new guidelines. Now, the third component of your Be Red Cross Ready is to be informed, and maybe, I know we've covered a little bit of it right now, but maybe you could talk a little bit about more.
Well, I think be informed is to be ready to handle the action. You know, be informed as to where the needs are. I know with the hurricanes, there was a number that you could contact the Red Cross, and the Red Cross would get out information to other people. So go to your sites, know where you can go to get help. Know where those hotels are that will accept a pet, especially if you have a pet. Know where your nearest stores are. Be informed as to your surroundings. Know what to expect.
And you also want to make sure that you know where to get information during a disaster. So think about, if the power is out, or maybe my cell phone isn't working and I can't go online. Oh no, how are you going to get information?
It's true.
And that's why having things like a battery-operated radio in your disaster disaster kit is so important, because when you have a disaster, sometimes radio is the only way to get information, and sometimes we don't even have that. I know when we had the ice storm in 2008, a lot of radio stations in the area weren't able to broadcast the first day of it because they didn't have any power at their transmitters. So you want to run through all of those possible scenarios, and fortunately for most of us, we won't need to use the full worst-case scenario disaster preparedness plan in our lives. Hopefully none of us will have to do that, but it does happen, and you might need to use parts of that during your plan. And I think when people think about, in this area, ice storms and flooding and minor fires, those kinds of everyday disasters that happen, you're going to need to know how you can get information, how you can get help, and you just want to think about all of those things when, you're preparing for future disasters.
Yeah, it's hard for people to take the time and make the effort to think about what their life would be like without power, without transportation, all that. It does take quite a bit. We have so many conveniences in our life, and we take it all for granted. And so it actually has to be a very willful decision to take the time to think about a worst case scenario, because no one likes to deal. I mean, that's part of it too, is that people don't like to think about bad things happening.
Exactly. At the Red Cross, we see a lot of that mentality of people thinking, it'll never happen to me. I'll never need the Red Cross. I will never have a disaster happen to me. But I know that, every single day there are things happening all over that you never thought would happen to you. Maybe your tire goes flat and you can't get to work, or, maybe, your power goes out at your home. Even though it's a beautiful day, sometimes the power just goes out. And those are things that we think of as inconveniences, but when you take a couple of minutes, maybe an hour, just to think about how you would deal with those situations, when they do happen, you'll be ready for them, and they won't inconvenience your life. You'll be able to get past it and just go back to normal.
And it may just save someone's life to be prepared. So, is there anything else in this Be Red Cross Ready program that you would like to cover before I go on?
Just that, the program has helped me in a very small way, and it wasn't a big disaster. I was prepared. I had my kit. I was headed home one evening, and I got a call that my father had a medical emergency while he was out of town. In Poughkeepsie, I was on the thruway. Knowing that my kit was in the back and that I had a change of clothes and everything with me gave me the ability to turn around on the thruway and just head there without going home first, without having to worry about something else. The kit really just made it easier. I know there's convenience stores and you can go to someplace, but I didn't want to stop. So if it means getting to someone right away, and the kid does that,
it's worth it.
It's worth it. It's worth it. And it was a great program that I was thrilled to utilize between the junior leagues, which was a tri-league project to work with the Red Cross to create disaster preparedness instructors. So,
and that's how you came to be a volunteer preparedness instructor. And do you yourself, Deneen, go out into the community?
I do. I've taught classes at senior centers. I did a couple of classes at Empire Blue Cross and Blue Shield in Corporate Woods. And we've given them, obviously, at our junior leagues around the area. So I think that we have, brought the program and to our members. So hopefully this will get the word out to those members in Colonie and everyone else that, the Red Cross is here. They're right in your back door. There's a big office. They have all these supplies.
And they can always use volunteers.
And they can always use volunteers. So.
And we will, at the end of this program, we will put phone numbers and websites so that anyone who's watching us can contact you. How about telling us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the Red Cross field?
Sure. Well, I've been working for the Red Cross for about 3 years now. And I have to say, it's an organization unlike any other that I've ever been involved with. I've been involved with a number of different area nonprofits. And the Red Cross it serves the community in a way that I've never seen before. And, I came to the Red Cross just, looking for a good place to work. And my very first day there, I walked in and, you expect your first day to have paperwork to do and to figure out who you're going to eat lunch with in the lunchroom. But instead I walk in and my new boss comes up to me and says, there was a fire in Troy yesterday and there are 27 people who can't go back home and we're taking care of them. And as the communications manager, my role is to let the community know what we're doing to help the people that we're giving aid to so that the community will continue to support us through donations and continue to support us through volunteerism. And so my first day, instead of spending it filling out paperwork and learning the ropes of my new job, I spent it working with all of the different aid organizations involved with that, going to the scene, sending out press releases, and it really cemented for me that this is an organization that truly serves the community. When people are in need, they turn to the Red Cross, and we're there for them 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and it really is very fascinating work. And to meet the other people who are involved in the Red Cross family, the people who support us through donations, through volunteering, through blood, it really is, I think, an organization that really affects people and that people feel very strongly about supporting. So I feel very lucky to be part of it.
You were telling me before we started taping that this is the 100th anniversary of the Red Cross.
Yes.
Want to talk about that a little bit?
It's our local Red Cross's 100th anniversary in 2010.
Explain local. What do you mean by local?
Okay. Well, we're the Red Cross of Northeastern New York, which means that we serve the 8 counties of the capital area, all the way from Columbia and Greene counties to Schenectady and out west to Fulton, Montgomery, and Schoharie counties, and then the Capital District communities too.
So that's what's 100 years old.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, we were founded in 1910, although the interesting thing is that the Red Cross has been involved. The National Red Cross was founded in Dansville, New York, not far from here, in 1881 by Clara Barton. There's evidence of local volunteerism in this area for the Red Cross in 1882. So just a year after the National Red Cross was founded, people in this area, without even having an office or an organizing body officially chartered, people in this area felt so strongly about the work of the Red Cross that they were already doing it. And then in 1910, we were officially chartered by the National Red Cross to provide services in this area. And that's what we've been doing ever since. And we provide a very wide range of services, everything like disaster preparedness to community volunteerism opportunities, the disaster relief, blood collection, the things that people are very familiar with, things like first aid and CPR and water safety classes and lifeguarding. And then there are also classes that people don't necessarily, or services that people don't necessarily think about when they think the Red Cross, but that we also provide. Things like providing advocacy services for seniors in the area. We teach classes in international humanitarian law so that people can understand the Geneva Conventions and how international law plays a role in international conflict and wars. And just a lot of different classes and free opportunities for the public and ways to make people safer and more educated in our area. So there's a lot that we do.
Thank you so much for being with us today, Siobhan Kent and Deneen Palmateer. They've taught us today about how to be Red Cross ready. Thank you for being with us. I'm Zina Shefchik.